Hello, wherever you're tuning in from. This is the Investors Corner, where we explore hidden treasures. With me, Tech Stephen Ogut. In this episode, I'm glad to be joined by Professor Jenga Munene, the Vice Chancellor of Zetech University, a prominent Kenyan private university, whose Vice Chancellor took his time to visit South Sudan and probably explore ways of cooperation. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your visit to South Sudan, we've seen you beginning by, touching base with the academics. We've seen you meeting with the Vice Chancellor of the University of Juba and his staff. Let's begin from there. How do you make of your visit to the University of Juba, and what are the future cooperation that you could see out of that?
First and foremost, I want to thank the Kenya Embassy in South Sudan for being very facilitative in terms of my trip in South Sudan. It is my first time to come to Juba. I am very happy about your capital. One of the things I notice is it's growing very fast, and there are very many cars and very big and new hotels that are coming up. The issue is I came here to explore ways of working together with people of South Sudan. South Sudan is a new country with massive potential. We are neighbors, and the sense of brotherhood between us, as you are aware, during the many years that you are in the process of getting your independence, that a lot of that was forecast in Kenya. Sometimes I look at your flag and I'm almost lost whether it is our flag or your flag. We share a lot of colors, and therefore we seem to value and have the same outlook of life. So I came here essentially to investigate how we can work together. As you are aware, education is universal. The only reason we are able to do this interview is because me and you can talk a language which we can agree that we are talking the same thing. That's the uniqueness about education. That unlike other commodities, like food, which we argue about whether to eat githeri, which is my traditional food. I don't know what your traditional food is. Knowledge has that sense of universality that once you are educated, it won't matter whether you are from South Sudan, or you are from DRC, or you are from Kenya, or you are from United States. Educated people can understand each other. And that's the whole purpose of universality of education. So we think that there are many opportunities for us to collaborate. For example, with the University of Juba, we agreed we are going to see and explore ways of creating a way of impacting knowledge on hospitality and tourism to the people of South Sudan. Because if you go through Juba, you find that there are very many hotels that are coming up. And therefore it means that there is need for that service, good hospitality, ability to manage hotels, ability to deal with customers. Because essentially this country will attract very many investors and very many tourists. So that's why we thought that with Professor John Akech, the Vice Chancellor of Juba, University of Juba, that we should begin an institute or a branch that will train purely on tourism and hospitality. This morning I was also lucky to meet the Vice Chancellor of Upper Nile University in Juba, and we had a long discussion with his team and with the University of Upper Nile University in Juba. We are looking at ways of collaborating in information technology. So we are looking forward to where we can work together to have more people from South Sudan getting education in information technology, which is actually the principal driver of the fourth revolution, the fourth industrial revolution, which is actually being propelled by information technology. IoT.
Yes, and Professor, sorry to cut you, Zetech University, I did some background check about it.
Yes.
It's a university that is started from a humble beginning to where it is now.
Yes.
And also Zetech University is one of the universities that has a huge alumni from this country. A lot of South Sudanese who were in Kenya studied there and did some courses there. Picking up from there, are you planning, or your institution, Zetech, planning, first of all, to create an alumni base in Juba, in South Sudan, to keep up the continuous work with its, people who studied in Kenya?
Interestingly, I had my first night. I arrived on Tuesday, and my first meeting was with the alumni of Zetech University from South Sudan. We had a meeting. They already have a forum, a WhatsApp group for all students who studied in Zetech University. Currently, I have 5 current students from South Sudan. We have educated more than 40 people from South Sudan in our university. So we have a long association with this country. Not now that the Vice Chancellor has come here, but it is something that I've been running. I think it was in 2016, Mr. Zetech University was from South Sudan when they did the fashion show. It was won by a South Sudan student. And therefore, for us, it's not establishing already the alumni of Zetech University in this country already have a WhatsApp group. And we intend to keep it close to us so that they continue to inspire other people. The whole essence of education is to ensure that other people benefit from your exposure. This media will be of great value when it allows other children to be able to become what you are as a journalist. By the way, we offer a very, very good course in journalism. And therefore, any person who would think that they want to be trained properly to become like Hussein Mohammed, who now joined the BBC. Hussein Mohammed is a student of Zetech University. So we do offer quality in terms of all the programs that we offer. We are extremely strong in ICT. Last year, we were voted 3 times among the top 3 best institutions in use of ICT by CRISC, by Kenneth, and by Emerald of South Africa. We never left number 3, between number 1 and number 3 in the whole Republic. So we are very extremely proud about what we are capable of doing.
Yes, and now that you mentioned that there is already existing an informal alumni base that have, made their own association through WhatsApp group and all that.
Yes.
But looking at the bigger picture, does Zetech intends to, all the institutions of higher learning, sometimes they open branches in different places. Have the Zetech ever thought about reaching out to South Sudan to establish maybe a branch or a base?
That is an ongoing conversation. It's an ongoing conversation within the university on the issue of opening a campus here. And while I may not be able to be committal on the time, I know that is one of the things that we really would be looking forward to. Yes.
But it's something that...
it's something that's been considered.
Yes. And you said you've been here for the last 3 days so far. You've seen the city. It's a very young country, of course, but with the potentials. Away from the education sector, because you mentioned that you also interested, like you mentioned in your meeting with the University of Juba, you touched base on the tourism, offering trainings in tourism, and with the University of Upper Nile, you also talked about ICT. So when we talk about tourism and ICT, not necessarily for education purposes, but for the job market, how do you see Juba for the job market?
You know, Juba has a huge potential. Sitting on the Nile, very close to Uganda, very close to Kenya, very close to Ethiopia, with a good airport, with a growing population of local and international investors. To me, Juba has huge potential for tourism. Huge potential for tourism. And it's not just Juba. I think it is literally the whole country. This is a wide country, bordering DRC, bordering Central African Republic, bordering Sudan, bordering Ethiopia, bordering Kenya, bordering Uganda. So essentially, it is one country that has very huge potential of inflow of tourists from literally every of those countries. And therefore, for me, developing tourism in this country would have a big impact in terms of inflow of capital and also inflow of human resource. And of course, also inflow of other issues like human resource. So I think for me, the potential is enormous. I don't think there's a country that has as much potential to grow like this country. Considering that the population of this country is now about 11 million people. 11 million people is less people than in many cities in China. If you Google China, there are probably over 20 cities with over 10 million people. So the whole of your population can be filled in one city, and the rest of the... But when you look at it, there is a lot of potential in my view.
And yeah, we would also like to know about the East African region, and in terms of cooperation in education, science and technology within the region, of course with the emphasis on South Sudan and Kenya. But before you talk about that, let's go for a short break, and you will put more emphasis on that. Okay. We take a short break. We'll be back shortly. There are plenty of investment opportunities in this world's youngest nation of South Sudan. To better understand the economy and explore the thriving market of this country, you ought to get out of your comfort zone. You either hustle under the scorching sun in Konyo Konyo market, run errands at a small or medium business enterprise, or better yet, chair a conglomerate board meeting at a high-end tower in Juba. While awaiting an official business trip to the region. Whatever you do, just don't rest. Work hard, think big, and be smart in order to count all your economic blessings through this weekly business show of the Investors Corner, exploring hidden treasures. Join us every week at this time. Welcome back. This is the Investors Corner with me, Tech Stephen Ogood. And in this episode, as I mentioned, I am joined by Professor Jenga Munene, the Vice Chancellor of Zetech University, a Kenyan private university. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And I was asking you about the regional cooperation in education and science technology, with emphasis between the two countries, South Sudan and Kenya. Which areas do you think they can cooperate in to improve these two sectors?
I think one of the things I would like to say is that East Africa generally have had a long history of cooperation between the countries, especially Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. If you are a history graduate or follow the history of the three old universities, University of Dar es Salaam, and Nairobi University, and Makerere University, they have had their origins from a common home, which was the University of London. Then Makerere, then from Makerere we ended up with Nairobi University, and we ended up with Dar es Salaam. From the three universities, then have grown very many universities that have been brought to grow or have improved to become full-fledged university with the support of the first three old universities. We also have a lot of collaborations of the universities in East Africa through the Inter-University Council of East Africa, through the RUFORUM, which is the regional forum for agriculture, universities that teach in agriculture. And therefore, cooperation has always served very well when it comes to development of universities. If you remember, we used to have COSURO, the Kenya South Sudan liaison office, in the office of the president. And when, for example, when I was dean, I remember receiving delegation of South Sudan ministers, mainly to discuss two things. One was livestock. I'm a veterinary surgeon. And the second one we were discussing was fisheries, because we do offer, Nairobi University used to offer fisheries, they still do. And the other one we were discussing was education itself. So there has been a concerted effort between the two governments to support each other when it comes to developing education. It is not lost that cooperation can be expanded from local universities, the private universities like Zetech University, and public universities. In this country, we have bodies in Kenya like CASNEP, like Kenyatta University, and other universities that are offering programs in this country. Now, Zetech University has been accredited fully by the Commission for University Education to offer open and distant learning, which means that with proper internet, we can actually offer all the programs that we do offer in Zetech University in Juba without necessarily our physical presence. Because as you are aware, and COVID taught us that the last 2 years, that the world can be closed. And unless you are connected to the net, then you can easily get lost and you end up literally being left behind. So there are a lot of opportunities that we can interrogate and see whether we can apply them. Distant learning, open and distant learning, blended learning, where you can do part of it as online and do part of the other one as face-to-face. And therefore, to me, there are a lot of opportunities. And considering that what you have is a young population of people who want to learn, then it means that there are many, many things that we can do together, both using internet and using face-to-face. After all, Kenya is a bus ride away.
Yeah. And Professor, Zetech University is a private university.
Yes.
And you visit to South Sudan,
Yeah.
you have prioritized
Yeah.
meeting with heads of public universities.
Yes.
And we understand we have private universities also
Yes.
in Juba, some of whom are highly affiliated to some private universities in Kenya, like the Catholic University in South Sudan and the Catholic University
Yeah.
in Kenya. We have Cavendish University in Kampala, same Cavendish University in Juba. Any particular reason as to why you did not reach out to the private universities? Or is something that
There is absolutely no reason why we did not reach out. The only point is that human time is limited. You cannot afford to see everyone. There are many places I would have wished to go. I'm here to see the bridge and many other things that I would have wished to go. I have actually had a very packed program. But the issue is we'll be willing to reach out and work out with everyone. As I told you, education has no boundaries. It has no private universities. It has no public universities. And even globally, you'll be surprised. There is no education any place. For example, in Kenya, the Kenya government gives us students as private universities. We do educate students that have been admitted by the Kenya government, yet we are private universities. Because we have come to realize that education has no boundaries. Education has no, there are no private university students, and there are no public students. All the students are Kenyan students. All students who go to the university in this country, whether they go to Stafford, or they go to Cavendish, or they go to Catholic University. I'm not sure which school you went to, but you're serving this country in whichever way it is, regardless of where you went to school.
Yes, and Professor Jenga Munene, unfortunately time is not on our side, but we'd like to thank you for giving us your time in this very tight schedule that you have and talking to our viewers in South Sudan about...
but I would like to summarize and say one or two things before you close.
Yeah, briefly.
And say that Zetech University is very ready to work with the people of South Sudan to ensure that both of us are reaching out to the youth and those people who are working so that they can get the skills they require to be able to deliver to the people of South Sudan. And therefore, people are welcome to study in Zetech in Kenya. They are also welcome to study in Zetech online, because whichever way, whether you learn online or you learn face-to-face, the most important thing is to have the knowledge. We also want to encourage those people who are in Sudan and they are Kenyans, that for the students who are in Kenya, they should first consider Zetech as a destination for them to take their children when they are away from home. Because we do take very serious care about the students who come to Zetech University. And you can have a discussion with the students who have studied in Zetech University from this country, and they'll tell you the kind of service we give. I can tell you we give you good service. And the other thing is that our wish is that South Sudan will become just as good as any other country in all the things that they are doing, because you are determined people. You are determined in what you are doing. We can see by the level of development that is happening in this country that you are very clear on where you want to go, and therefore knowledge becomes a key driver in your growth.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Jenga Munene, for giving us your time and speaking to our program and our viewers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And may God bless South Sudan.
Thank you. And this is our program for today. I am your host, Zetech Stephen Ogood, wishing you a very good time.